Okay, it might be hard to take me seriously in this outfit, but let's get serious for a moment, because this is a serious subject. Occupy Wall Street protests have broken out in cities across the U.S., including right here in Albuquerque, and Americans are speaking out against corporate assault on the middle class. But is anybody listening is really the big question, and Tom Crow of Crow Financial is with us this morning to talk about it. So good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
You look fabulous in your Crow Financial uniform.
This is what I do for Halloween. You know,
I like it.
I did shop around a little bit, and I just thought a 6'2", 240 Bernie Madoff would be a little too terrifying for anybody to handle in the studio this morning. So
very good thinking. Thank you for that. Well, speaking of thinking, give us some of your thoughts on what's happening with the Occupy Wall Street protests right now.
Well, you know, I think they started off pretty well organized with a pretty focused theme, and I think since then an awful lot of people have kind of glommed onto the protest, and their message has gotten a little bit diluted. You know, when they started off, I'm in agreement with a lot of what their complaints are, and that there seems to be a total lack of accountability in both corporate and government structure. But I think they've let too many people kind of join in the protest. They've got a little too diluted, a little fractured. And I think a lot of the municipalities that are having to deal with the crowds and the cleanup are starting to get a little bit impatient.
It's like too many cooks in the kitchen, you know?
I think so.
I mean, it's like you get to a point where it's just too many opinions, too much, and then, like you said, it gets scattered. And if we move into foreign markets, you know, we have to wonder, did we get some fix out of Greece or Europe? I mean, is that why the markets have bounced back a little bit?
Markets bounced back a little bit. We talked about some of the bailouts in Greece seem to be taking a little traction. It does look like they're going to take a write-down on some of their bonds. And it's going to cost some of their investors a little bit of money, but you know, you'd rather get 50 cents on the dollar than nothing.
I mean, and I've been hearing that term haircut, and of course, it has nothing to do with Mark Pardo Salon, just so you know. I want to
you should have Pardo on the haircut instead of me, for sure. He's the expert.
But you know, when we hear terms like that, a lot of us, I mean, it's not that we're ignorant, we just don't understand. What is it all about?
You're talking about kind of lingo in the bond market, bond investor world, where they're talking about a haircut. So somebody paid, for example, $1,000 for a bond, and instead of getting interest for a few years and then your $1,000 back, now they're going to get interest, or they have gotten interest for a little while. Now they're only going to get $500 back for the bond.
Why?
So, because Greece can't afford to pay it all back.
Well, isn't that going to hurt investors?
Oh, it's going to hurt investors a lot. It's going to hurt the banks that own their bonds. It's going to hurt the countries that invested in their foreign debt. But again, you know, you'd rather get 50 cents on the dollar than nothing. And you know, you can look at situations in private industry like General Motors. They had their bonds. When the government came and restructured them, those bondholders lost everything. They went from $1,000 bonds to
nothing.
Zero.
Yeah, to nothing.
So totally wiped out.
So then, as individual investors, can we learn anything from this? I mean, what would be the lesson for us?
Well, the lesson is to always know what you're investing in. You know, the information's out there. You can look at how much debt a country has, just as you can look at how much debt a company has. And if you're going to buy a company or a country's debt, make sure that they look like they have the financial strength to make good on their obligations.
And sometimes you really don't know until you do your own investigation.
You have to do a little bit of investigation.
You do. I mean, you have to research. I mean, I think a lot of us are questioning, does this mean that we might see the financial press start turning their attention back to what's going on, you know, in the U.S.?
It'd be nice.
Because
we're in earnings season. Some corporations are doing very well, I think, on average. They're beating estimates. You know, you say there's a soft economy, unemployment's still high, but Puss in Boots did $34 million this weekend. People are spending money.
Well,
we saw the spending on Halloween costumes and candy is up.
It's up. I mean, I was just watching that and they were talking. It's a big difference from last year. I mean, and that's good to see. It's good to see people are spending a little more money, and we're making good on what we say we're going to try to do. But here's the thing, the end of the year is coming up. I mean, it's like right around the corner. So what advice would you give to investors at this point as we round out 2011?
Well, as the year ends, wrap up things, make sure you know what you've got and know how it's performing for you. If you've taken too many losses, you maybe need to look at your risk profile, pull back on the risk a little bit, and that includes your 401k. There's always a stable value or cash fund that takes a little less risk, a little less exposure to markets, that will not lose you so much money in volatile markets, because I think we're still looking at volatility now. We've got the Congressional Super Committee that's going to come up in a month. They've got to come up with something. Any headline right now is influencing the markets, and I think people are still going to be a little bit skittish.
And if somebody wants your personal help, let's tell our viewers where they can find you.
Please call me. I'm here in Albuquerque, my office, 243-2281. It's a no obligation for a review. And you can also look at focusonthefuture.tv. A lot of free videos there, from anything from banking to debt to student loans to buying your first car.
It's everything. Yeah, it's perfect. And you really give us such great advice. Tom, thanks so much for being with us. Happy Halloween, and thanks for indulging me in my Wonder Woman costume.
Anytime.
And coming up next, El Dia de los Muertos. Don't go away.